Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Out of the Ice podcast.
So this time we got to watch a movie that Scott has talked about constantly, has always said, I want to be this.
Essentially, this movie is this is the superpowers that I want. We watched Jim Carrey's The Mask, where a man finds a mask that essentially allows him to have the abilities of a Looney Tune.
It's basically a chaotic character got a hold of just cartoon powers in real life.
I want the mask. I want to put it on my face and just have the cartoon powers forever. Forever.
Now, this movie came out in 94, if I remember right, just off the top of my head.
Yes, I believe so. 94 or 95.
All right, so it's just about as old as us, but did it stand... I thought it stand the test of time. I almost kind of forgot. I'm like, oh yeah, this is an older movie.
It's funny. This was actually a very influential movie when it comes to computer effects, because I actually remember there was a book that I rented. It's one of those books where it's like, oh, the official guide to whatever and stuff like this. You know, they had one where it's like the Avengers or the Justice League, and it has all the characters and this stuff. Well, they also had one for filmmaking effects, and the last few chapters were about computer graphics and how it was mostly talking about Jurassic Park and The Mask and stuff like this, and how it essentially is a new version of the Harryhausen technique of, stop motion, where they had Jason and the Argonauts fighting the skeletons.
Okay.
And they showed a bunch of pictures from the behind the scenes of how they did the scene where, his eyes are popping out of his head and his tongue is going.
Yeah, that was literally the scene I was thinking about when I was thinking about the effects.
And it just shows all of the different layers and stuff, like all the triangles and the front and all that stuff. I'm just like, oh man, that's so cool. It even showed one that was just Jim Carrey just in the makeup, because there was an actual makeup and prosthetics and stuff too. And that is, I think, why it stands so well. There is a lot of practical effects and computer graphics. And when you have both of those, it helps the suspension of disbelief, because underneath all of, and this is subconscious, that underneath everything, your subconscious mind just recognizes that there is a real thing there. And that's a problem that a lot of people have with computer graphic effects, especially people who are actually, in a critical mindset or are a reviewer or something like that. Something that I hear all the time whenever I hear a movie review that has any sort of computer effects is, yeah, the computer effects were fine. I mean, I could obviously tell that it wasn't there. I didn't feel like it was there. Every second I knew that wasn't real.
And I'm thinking about when you said that, the first thought that came to my head was the prequels for Star Wars, and just how fake the whole everything looked.
Yeah, and it's gotten a lot better, and there are some times when you can't anymore. It's very hard to tell. For instance, you've seen Logan, right?
I have not.
You have not?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well then I can't use that example.
Whoops, add it to the list.
How have you not seen Logan? This is what happens every time I find out she hasn't said something. I'm just like, how have you not? When it came out, you were already into superhero movies, and that's a Wolverine movie that's rated R.
I was never really I don't know.
If you say you were not into X-Men, that doesn't matter.
I wasn't into Wolverine either.
You disappoint me, bub. Berserker Barrage. But you know what? Fuck it. I'll say it, because maybe it'll even make you see it more. Plus, you'll probably forget by the time we watch it.
Hell yeah.
Most of that movie has computer graphics over. What's the dude's name that plays Wolverine? Shit, what's his name? Oh, I'm blanking so hard.
Because when I think of Wolverine, my brain goes to Hugh Jackman.
That's him.
Oh, okay, neat.
That is the live action Wolverine. We haven't gotten another one.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Wasn't sure.
But yeah, he is completely covered in CGI for most of that movie to help with the aging. Like, he had aging makeup on, but then they also, did some stuff that, like, you can't really do with makeup without it looking kind of obvious. Like, they changed his nose to make it look like time had worn on, and like more creases and, wrinkles under the eyes and all that stuff. And essentially they just had like a computer graphics version of a fucking latex mask that they just onto him every goddamn scene. Which, helped when a certain thing happens, and essentially a lot of those layers start to kind of fade for a moment. But yeah, it's just... But a lot of times, the reason that worked so well is because underneath all of that, there was still a real person, whether it was Jackman or a stunt double. Mm-hmm. And so to see that, you still are like, okay, there is a real person there. There's a real person there, even if there's some computer fuckery happening. But when it comes to, say, a helicarrier in the Marvel movies, there's nothing there when you see an exterior shot of a helicarrier more often than not. And that's starting to become obvious even in some of the later MCUs. I went back to watch Winter Soldier recently, and they showed all of the helicarriers go up, and I'm just like, ooh, that does not look as good as it did.
I'm curious to try to like look out for that too, because I've been meaning to rewatch all the MCUs anyway.
Yeah,
so.
and the problem partially is that computer graphics keep getting better, and because of that, you're mentally now trained to see the new stuff. So if you go back even like a couple years,
kind of like video game graphics,
sort of, yeah, where like it can be harder if you grew up on a PS2 to go back to N64, or if you grew up on a PS4, then you probably look at the N64 and react like kids react to black and white movies, or most kids react to black and white movies. I never had a problem with black and white movies, especially because
I was gonna say, is that more like friendly for your eyes, or no?
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that, like, I went camping sometimes with family, like in an RV, and we had a TV in there that could, play VHSs and stuff, but it was only black and white.
Okay.
So I saw a lot of colored movies in black and white. So that's something that I always find interesting. Like if a movie comes out, which Logan did, by the way. If a movie comes out and one of the special features is watch it in black and white, that's a fun way to look at it, because suddenly when color's not there anymore, you start noticing the choices in like lighting a lot more, and like the themes hit a lot more.
Okay. I'll have to keep that in mind, especially as we're hitting spooky season. Mm-hmm. We're going to be watching some older stuff, right?
Oh, I definitely think the first thing we need to watch is Dracula.
Yeah.
The original Dracula from Universal.
Yeah, I've never seen Dracula, so.
Because that will hit you like a fucking fever dream.
Oh.
There's no background music in that movie.
Oh, God.
Because they hadn't figured out that that's what they should do yet. So it's just silent.
That is so... I feel like they step in that way. We'll probably get to this when we get to Dracula, but like I feel like that's completely unintentional, but it was a good thing, because I couldn't imagine just the silence being extremely unsettling.
Oh, especially because there's like scenes where Dracula is just seen at the top of the stairs, and all that's illuminated is his eyes, and there's no background music, so it doesn't get ruined by like a modern day movie going dun or like or anything like that. It's just silent with the slight crackle of the original sound of the cameras going that was around back then. So you're just like, oh, I don't like this. Even weirder is that when they made it because they released a version that was Spanish for, Spanish speakers in Mexico and stuff. It's not just a separate audio dub. I don't know if they couldn't do that yet. I would doubt that they couldn't, but they just made a whole separate movie. They reused the sets, got Spanish actors, and just did it again.
That's kind of neat.
It is really neat, and even to the point where some of the shots are better because like they had a different cinematographer and stuff, and they learned stuff.
They probably picked up on stuff from the previous version.
Yeah,
like we can do this but better.
Yeah,
crazy.
But yeah. So enough about the history of filmmaking. Though, again, The Mask kind of ties into that because it was one of the first movies to use a shit ton of computer graphics. And of course, some of them don't look as good today. Like some of the times when he's like stretchy and like bouncing around, like when he's doing that Daffy Duck thing, that looks kind of dated. But some of the stuff is just real, real good. And it also helps that a lot of the times when it's doing that computer graphic stuff, it goes more stylized. His proportions become more cartoony, and they're squash and stretching.
I thought it was kind of charming because, again, the Mask is a very zany, crazy character. So it just kind of works, even if it's a little dated.
He literally polymorphs into the fucking cat calling wolf from that Red Riding Hood cartoon at one point.
Yeah, that's right.
And then beats the shit out of himself with a mallet from nowhere. But yeah, so the movie proper starts, and we see a scuba diver in this shithole of a city. Like literally all of the city, every time you see it, just has tons of like fumes and shit. Like it's funny because it's very vibrantly colored, but it's cynical in its presentation of a city.
It was, yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, which is something I always like. I have felt forever that just because you're making a movie that has like satire or a cynical viewpoint, cynical humor, or anything like that, if you're trying to have some dark tones to it, that doesn't mean everything needs to be brown, Snyder. Sorry for your loss, but again, there's colors. Use them.
Yeah, seriously.
And so there's a scuba diver, and he sees this chest, right? And he starts to open the chest. And just the fact that the chest gets open causes this chain reaction where a fucking beam falls down and crushes the dude.
Yikes.
And then the mask floats up to the surface, and we cut to Stanley Ipkiss.
Oh, Stanley. Immediately, I'm just like, this guy's a total loser. Like, this girl just played him for concert tickets, like that. Mm-hmm. He knew what was happening, but he was just like, okay then, here you go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, come on, dude. Yikes. Man.
Yeah, and so this is where an interesting thing comes up, because The Mask, the movie, is very different than The Mask, the comic book.
Really?
Yes. For instance, I'm showing Kat a picture here. This is what The Mask looks like in the comics.
I mean, yeah, look, it definitely doesn't look like the movie, but I kind of dig that look too.
Yeah, and in it, The Mask is a serial killer.
What?
He's a serial killer.
Oh.
The story initially revolves around a magical mask which bestows on its wearer reality-bending powers and an altered appearance. Characterized by a large set of teeth and a green head, the mask affects the personality of the wearer by removing all social and moral inhibitions, causing the wearer to become insane. The character was inspired by a combination of the Joker and Steve Ditko's version of the Creeper, as well as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In the original comics, characters who wore the mask would become cruel anti-heroes at best, or murderous, vengeful villains at worst with ultra-violent tendencies, even if this was not the wearer's original intent. So, in the 1994 film and the animated series, the mask was toned down to make it only as dangerous as its wearer. And the main character, Stanley Ipkiss, was depicted as a mischievous yet benevolent superhero.
Yeah, I think the Mask that we watch is a lot more general audience friendly.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. So Stanley Ipkiss originally was essentially, I think, like a mob. I think he was an accountant, but he was like in with the mob and was just kind of pushed around by them. Was basically like a book cooker You know,
kind of a pencil pusher.
Yeah, for the mob. And when he got the mask, he, you know, started moving up the ranks and killing other people and all this stuff. Eventually, he gets killed by his girlfriend.
Oh.
So this is a very different Stanley. This Stanley, who is being played by glorious actor Jim Carrey in, I think, one of his defining roles in comedian stuff. He would later go on to do serious stuff, experiment with art, and then come back to comedy eventually with Sonic the Hedgehog. But this Stanley is just a dweeby accountant who, even though he's apparently one of the, like, you know, the top accountants in the bank, lives like a fucking schmuck. Doesn't like, even though his colleagues are able to like go to a freaking club every night and all this shit, it's just like this poor guy. You know, so he's got a shit car. He lives in a shit apartment that's decorated with a bunch of cartoon memorabilia, and he's just a Dorcas.
Everyone just kind of gives him like the shaft or shit. It's kind of on.
Yeah.
He is a loser, but like, damn, like that's kind of rude.
And everyone who works at his bank is so horny.
Oh, good God, it was so annoying. Like
he's horny. His friend is horny. Their boss is horny.
When his friend, like when, oh God, what's her name again? The female love interest.
Which one?
Not the reporter.
I don't remember what either of their names are. Was it like Tina or something?
Yes, Tina. Thank you. Like when Tina walked in and she gave the friend her jacket. Like he was sniffing it. I'm like,
yeah,
dude.
Creepy. I think that's supposed to be some of the cynicism though. But and so, you know, Stanley's just this guy who just can't catch a break on this day. By the way, he gets fucked over with his car. Like, he just went for an oil change and they give him a bunch of lies about shit being wrong with the car, and then give him a loaner, which is a piece of shit literally falling apart.
It's just so funny when that whole scene was happening. Like, I was just getting like flashbacks to, like, if that were my dad in Stanley's position, he'd probably beat the shit out of them. He wouldn't tolerate that bullshit.
Yeah, and then
But Stanley's like, I need my car.
Yeah, and then he goes to a club where his friend is like, oh, hey, I can get us in, and just gets ditched immediately.
Yikes.
Thrown out. You know, like, the car breaks down on a bridge. He kicks it, and, like, it just falls the fuck apart. Like, he finally finds the mask.
And, like, that whole night, like, I even wrote the comment, like, Stanley, this whole night is a wake-up call that you just need to reevaluate your whole life.
Yeah. So he has this one act of, like, you know, altruism showing through all of this dorcasness and awkward horniness, where, you know, he sees something, and it looks like a shape with a face on it, so he thinks it's someone drowning. You know, or somebody in trouble at the very least. So he goes down there to try to help them, but finds out it's just a bunch of garbage with the mask. And he sees the mask, it seems to, like, shine a bunch, and it seems to almost be, like, urging him to put it on, you know, because he seems to be doing it unconsciously. And then the cops show up and are like, hey, what are you doing? Which I thought was weird. Let a man, you know, be in the river if he wants to be in the river. How is that illegal?
He might be doing them drugs.
Okay, but he's away from society. He's in a river.
He might, but arrest him.
But yeah, so they're like, hey, what are you doing?
I'm just looking for my mask. I got it.
Yay.
And so he goes to his apartment, where his landlady immediately comes out, yells at him for rent, and then is like, oh, my new carpet, this is coming out of your security deposit. Shows that Stan is a fucking...
Even though it's outside his apartment.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yeah. And shows that he's a weenie because, you know, he's like... You know, he starts to be like, you know what? And then chickens out, and then is like... says it behind her back, and it's like, I should have said that. And then we go into his room, we see his stuff where it's like all cartoony focused, and he's got a dog named Milo.
Oh, best character.
A little beagle. And then he is watching a news show with the Clear Eyes guy, who, you know, is like, we all wear masks, metaphorically speaking. And he's like mocking it, starts to put on the mask, and it starts to adhere to his face, you know? And then he takes it off, and he's like, no, I must have just imagined that. Puts it on again and transforms into the mask.
Milo just kind of hides under the bed, like, oh God, what's happening?
Yep.
Wolf.
And that's when we get the true best character of this film, the Mask.
Just insanity, and just the definition of insanity.
Yeah. And it's just a cartoony dude.
It's party time! P-A-R-T. Why? Because I gotta!
He starts trying to sneak out, but of course something goes wrong. A clock just jumps out of his pocket and starts going. And so he starts smashing it with a mallet. The landlady comes out, gets freaked out. That's where the eye bulging tongue coming out thing happens. She grabs a shotty, tries to shoot him.
I mean, I don't blame her.
Yeah, jumps out a window, flattens himself, peels himself off.
Look, Ma! I'm roadkill! Ha ha ha!
And at that moment, that's when I really realized, I'm like, oh, this is just a cartoon character.
This is just what Scott wants to be.
Yeah, that was the moment. I'm like,
this is the power that Scott wishes he had over reality.
I get it now.
Yeah, I would just prank people so much. Just only things that are just mildly infuriating, or you know, just annoyingly confusing.
Even more so than now.
Yeah, like just, you know, somebody's really trying hard to, like, you know, overcome limits and stuff. They're rock climbing and I'm just ting going up, and I just am acting like I'm in an elevator as I float above them.
Or like I was thinking, like, if it's something someone's trying to climb up and it just has the tiniest little bit of incline, like it's a rock wall, you just snap like all like the little rocks. all the rocks just like kind of go whoop, and you're just sliding down like
going down, you know, or just like, it's like, oh man, I'm looking for what? And I just pull random shit from behind my back. A stapler, another stapler, a bigger stapler.
What?
I have so many staplers.
See, you play it so well.
Yeah, and so, The Mask 3, hit me up. And so he hits to the ground. There's a car that comes up, starts honking his horn. I think he wants to communicate. Pulls out a little air horn and goes, Aruga! Breaks all the windows, goes to an alley. Like, he's just on a rampage of chaos now. Goes to an alley, messes with some thugs, turns a balloon into a Tommy gun.
Oh my gosh, Tommy gun.
And we get that one scene where he makes a French poodle for the original gangster, and then it pops, and the guy gives such a sad, heartbroken face that even to this day I feel so bad for him. I'm like, somebody get him a balloon animal.
It was rabid. Had to put it down.
Yeah, it's just like I shouldn't feel this empathetic for a random gangster side character,
like losing a balloon.
I feel so bad because he's just making this childlike heartbroken face, and he sells it for me.
The face of a child that would like lose a balloon because they let go of it.
Yeah, and I empathize with that, and I'm just like, no, somebody help this boy.
He'll never be happy again.
Somebody help this poor boy. You know, get him a fucking chocolate milk or something. But yeah, so he's just going all over the goddamn place,
including getting his car back.
Yeah, he gets his car back after stuffing mufflers up those guys' butts.
Yeah.
It cuts back to them later on, and we see that they literally the cop is like, "Get me a proctologist, the best one in the city." I'm sorry, what? You heard me. And but yeah, so he he goes to the car, robs a bank, and that's when we start getting crossover with the bad guys of the movie, where there is a mobster, like an up-and-coming mobster, who's trying to essentially gain more power from under the nose of the actual mob boss. And he owns the club. Tina is his girl.
Is in cahoots. So she had, way back in her first scene, like she had a camera in her purse and she was just trying to angle it to get some intel.
And then he's trying to rob Stanley's bank, but Stanley, as the Mask, just takes the money already. And then they get arrested and shot at by the cops. One of them dies, and the other guy who was there is like, all right, who did this? And it's like, I don't know who he was. Who did it? Actually, it was that guy. The one dancing with Tina?
They're just having a great time.
Yeah.
Tina's a great performer because she just rolls with it. She's like, okay, this is happening now.
Yep, I don't know who this is, but
I'm gonna sell it. I'm performing. So it's a party until some shooting starts happening.
Yeah, shooting starts happening, and we get a good goofing with the Mask where they're trying to shoot him, and he's just transforming into different things, like an Elvis impersonator going, huh, huh, thank you very much, and it's like Toro, Toro, and finally he transforms into a cowboy.
Oh, you got me, partner.
Falls into the guy's hands, is selling it so well that the guy starts crying, and then he gets handed an Oscar.
Thank you. You love me. You really love me.
I was like, that was just the craziest fucking fourth wall breaking I've ever seen.
Imagine that in a theater.
That has to be such a mind fuck.
Yeah, just you like me? You all really like me?
Oh.
It starts to go away, gets signaled that it's the other way. Oh, it walks into the gun.
Oh my god.
And then he eventually escapes,
leaving behind a little piece of evidence for the detective.
Yes.
Giving some insight who he might be with the lame-o pajamas.
Yeah.
Being the tie.
Mm-hmm. And so he wakes up and detectives are questioning him, and it's like, hey, were you there when the lady was firing the gun? And it's like, no, I was asleep. It's like, you slept, their shotgun got bullets, I guess, and stuff like this, or actually, I think some of the stuff we said was the second night, but
yeah, but I mean, basically, because we didn't get to see a lot of the first night.
Yeah, I think it's ended with his car.
Yeah.
The first night. So some of this stuff is happening before the club.
I mean, really, all we saw before the second night was the Dorian, the up and coming mobster, getting chewed out by the actual mobster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
it was just little stuff like that.
Yeah. So
the reporter came the night after the first night. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a reporter, and she's like, oh, I'm doing a story. It's like, oh, don't you do those ask whoever columns, and Polly or something.
Something kind of like.
And it's like, oh, you're Mr. Nice Guy, and it's like nowadays.
I was gonna say, when I heard that, I immediately went like, oh.
Different time.
They're very different. Everyone wants a nice guy like you. I'm just like, even though I know that wasn't the intent, but my millennial brain was just cringing.
Yeah, and so. We've now got sort of an implied love triangle, I guess. And so it kind of goes to the night after, and that's when he robs the bank. That's when he goes to the club and all this stuff. And that's when the detective finds the evidence and is like, oh, Ipkiss. And, he goes to Ipkiss's apartment the next morning, and, Ipkiss is trying to clean up and stuff, opens the closet door, accidentally finds all the money he stole. I was like, shit.
Just trying to stuff it into this closet. The dog's just there confused, like, Borf.
Yep.
What's going on?
And so he answers the door, and it's like, Ipkiss, like, where are those pajamas that you had? And it's like, pajamas? Those pajamas, they got stolen.
That was the stupid... Stanley's so dumb.
And it's like, somebody stole your pajamas. What's the city coming to? And so eventually he gets the detective out of there, and Tina shows back up at the bank and is like, hey, it's like, I heard that the mask hit this place up. And even though cops are investigating the scene of the robbery, Stanley goes, I actually know the mask. Like,
oh my God.
We're old college buddies.
Stanley, stop. Please stop talking.
Yeah, and it's just like, so it's like, oh, I can set up a meeting with you.
I was gonna say, this is like the equivalent of like a middle school boy trying to impress a girl. Like,
yeah. My dad works at Nintendo.
I was gonna say, my dad knows from Goofy Movie. What was his name?
My dad knows Powerline.
Yeah.
They're all college buddies. In fact, my dad taught him a bunch of his dance moves.
Oh, yikes.
If we look into each other's eyes, use the ultimate cast. Or no, the perfect cast. But, so, Stanley sets up a meeting between Tina and the mask. And eventually, though, he goes to Clear Eyes guy, whose name I can't remember. But he explains... the Clear Eyes guy explains, like, hey, this is a mask. It looks like it's, Norwegian, probably supposed to be depicting the night trickster god Loki. And so he explains, like, oh, well, when I put this mask on, it turns me into this, the big head guy and all this stuff. And the guy just thinks he's crazy. Yeah, it's like, I don't deal with people sick in the head. I was talking metaphorically. It's like, all right, well, I'll put it on and, we'll just, don't blame me for what happens. Tries to put it on and it doesn't work. And he goes, okay, well, you said Loki's a night god, so maybe it only works at night.
Loki is just kind of going, nee, 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 nee.
No, that's not until the second movie.
Oh.
Loki's in The Son of the Mask.
Oh, okay.
It's not a good movie.
Which we're not going to watch.
That movie is such a piece of shit.
Ooh.
I've heard rumors that Jim Carrey wants to do an actual sequel to The Mask. Like starring him and being Stanley Ipkiss and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I would love to see that, because there was originally going to be a Mask 2, even to the point where in Nintendo Power they had a contest for it.
Oh, no.
And then it just got canceled.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. I don't even know if a script exists.
Ooh.
I should look into that. But, yeah, like, it's just, he gets ready, and he goes out to meet Tina as himself, and then eventually he decides, oh, well, my friend's gonna be here soon, I gotta go. Runs behind a bush. And then, like, immediately comes back out from the other side of the bush as the mask. Tina, I guess, doesn't put it together. Maybe she does. I don't fucking know. I don't know how much he knows at this point. And he's just, acting French and constantly making sex innuendos.
Yep. A little too forward to the point where even Tina's getting uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like Napoleon, I will divide and conquer. Let me eat your croissant.
I forgot about that one.
Yep, and later on he describes himself as a cartoon-obsessed, hopeless romantic. I would say cartoon-obsessed horn dog.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't call you as like the cutesy, hopeless romantic type. You're just incredibly horny, man.
Just so thirsty.
Good lord, you need to get laid, dude.
Parched. Oh man, has Stanley been in the desert? Because he am thirsty. So eventually the detectives run up on him. And it's like, Ipkiss, freeze, and he like jumps off the bench as they're saying it, and he just freezes in the air.
Yes.
And it's just like, all right, put your hands up. But you told me to freeze. All right, well then unfreeze and put your hands up. And like they start searching his pockets,
and it's basically pockets of
really big sunglasses, white corn, smallmouth bass,
Wow.
bowling pin, honey eyeball glasses,
I've never seen those before in my life.
bazooka,
I have a permit for that.
picture of Kellaway's wife.
What? Uh-oh.
Margaret, you son of a... Hey, can't you take a joke? I thought you could. After all, you married her.
you.
Smack, 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 smack. Runs away, jumps up. There's every cop in the city just... And he's like... Ah! And it's like, all right, put your hands up, because there's nowhere to go. And he just... yeah. And it's just... Showtime!
One of the best scenes in the movie.
And he's suddenly in like Congo attire, I believe. And it's just like and like he starts singing Cuban Pete. They call me
Cuban Pete. I'm the king of a rumba beat. When I play the maracas, I go chick chicky boom, chick chicky boom. Yes, sir, I'm Cuban Pete. I'm the crazy man that gets straight.
This is like if a bard rolled a nat 20 to get out of a really bad situation.
I'm pretty sure my Bard has done that.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, in our D&D game, I'm pretty sure I got myself out of bullshit things. In fact, even my monk, who has pretty good charisma, is just like, this is happening now. Conga! Dun 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 dun, hey! Dun 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 dun, hey! But like, essentially all of the cops start getting infected by the music and start dancing along. Like, there's literally freaking people who are like doing the, rappelling down the buildings things, who are just swinging back and forth on the wires, and the copters are spinning around, everybody's congaing, and then
the detective and Doyle are walking up, and Doyle's just like, oh,
this is fun. Doyle! I always love that. Doyle! Like when he smacks them beforehand, and then they try to go after him, they realize they're handcuffed with the cuffs that were on him, and it's just like, Doyle! But anyway, he runs away into an alley, takes off the mask, the reporter shows up, and, it's like, Stanley, come on, get in, I'm here to help! And so you're like, oh, okay, cool, she's the good one. And then immediately sells him out to the mob.
Because they were talking because it seems like it was going that way in that scene where they were talking, and I'm just like, and first I'm thinking like, oh hell no, this is so unrealistic, and I was about to just go off about this. I'm like, this is their second interaction the whole movie, and oh, she sold them out. Nice subversion of expectations. Thank you.
Where the hell were you guys? I've been vamping for 20 minutes. What are you doing? Yeah, it's just like, I'm sorry, Stanley, but I really want to keep my condo. You really are a nice guy. All right, I'm gone. Do. I'm not in the movie anymore because originally my character was killed.
Oof.
Yep. Originally, she gets printing pressed.
Oh.
Gruesome. So the bad guy, eventually, he then puts on the mask, and it shows what it warps him into, and it's just this like hulking guy, like just actually kind of looks like a character from the comics that isn't a masked person, like can't even wear the mask, but is just this like hulking titan that seems impossible to be killed. But like kind of looks like that, and it's just obvious that he's, in fact, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, the mobster guy is more of a hopeless romantic from how he gets defeated. But, so he's this hulking dude showing how, like, his lust for power and all this stuff, like, literally storms appear above his head, like, that crackle with lightning and shit. and he talks like this now, like just pitch shifted down.
Yeah, he's honestly, like, as the Mask is not horribly different from his normal personality or temperament.
No, it's just very
amplified
to a super proportion. Like at one point, he breaks into his own club and is like, change in management, and like confronts the guy who was above him, kills him by literally everyone just shoots into him, and he just absorbs the bullets as he breathes in, and reveals that they're all in his mouth, and just shoots him like a machine gun out of his mouth at everybody.
Oh yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yep. And so he has the whole club held hostage. Meanwhile, Stanley has been arrested and is in prison. Milo, following after a mob car that he saw with Stanley in it, who they then threw him literally at the feet of the police, like, here's the mask. So he sees Stanley in there, and Stanley is just like, Milo, it's going to be a long time until I get out of here. Just go on without me, buddy. Find a new home. But Tina comes to visit him and is like, I did really care about you, Stanley. And it's like, you're the mask and stuff like that, and I like the guy who's under the mask. The cartoon powers are cool and stuff, but also he's a little bit much. Like, you are easier to
lower maintenance
to communicate with.
Yeah.
And so she gets kidnapped by Darian. That's the dude's name, the mobster. And Stanley sees it. Some funny commentary for this day and age. He literally reports it to the cop, who, I don't know how he's not hearing the screaming. It's like, hey, there's a lady in trouble, man. Go help her. Protect and serve. And the guy's like,
Yep, seems about right.
Whatever. But she's white.
Yeah, that's what I even said that while we were watching. I'm like, dude, it's a white woman screaming. Do your damn job.
A blonde white woman.
Yeah, seriously.
You're a cop. You're racist. You should like that. And so, remake the system. So Milo eventually jumps in, helps get the keys from the cop, and breaks out, Stanley steals the cop's gun, takes the detective hostage, and then gets to the club and goes in with a gun, which always reminded me, I don't know if anybody here is, like, anybody listening has played the Sega Game Gear Incredible Hulk game. But in that game, sometimes you turn back into Banner if you've taken enough damage, or if your rage meter just goes below a certain thing. And as Banner, you can, like, crawl into vents and stuff, but it kind of almost becomes a Metal Gear game, because one hit, you're dead.
Oh, that's kind of
because you're just human.
Yeah.
But if you take out a bad guy, you can steal their gun.
Ooh.
And so now you have a gun. And I always thought that was a really cool mechanic, where it's not great to be Banner, but you're not absolutely defenseless.
And there's tiny perks to it still.
Yeah, you can get through vents and other shit. I always thought that was really cool. But
Stanley, he's pumping himself up to be the big hero with his gun.
And like, he passes a gun to his friend who's there. It's like, hey, start getting people out of the back. And the friend's just like, wait, how did you get okay.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, all right, here's where the boys are separated from the men. Here's where we find out what old Stanley Ipkiss is made of. And there's a gun pointed to his head. Crap.
Yeah.
Just shit.
Seems about right for Stanley.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you tried, man, but you forgot lesson 1. Act, don't say. Show, don't tell. And so he gets, captured and stuff like this, is about to get killed by Darian Mask, but Tina is like, oh, well, I have one more request before you blow this whole fucking club up and all of us in it. I want a kiss. And it's like, oh, okay, and like goes to try to lean in as the mask. Not from the mask, from the man I used to love. And so it's like, there's always time for one last kiss. I'm like, see, he's kind of the hopeless romantic, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so he takes off the mask. Tina kisses him, gets a foot out, and kicks the mask away from him.
Nice.
And it's like, get it! But of course, it's a trickster god mask, so it starts flying way too far for a wooden mask until finally it's caught by Milo, who then puts it on, kind of accidentally, and becomes Mask Dog.
Barf, barf.
Yep. And is just wreaking havoc until finally he can
Pissing on people.
Yep. Biting people. Eventually gets back to Stanley. Stanley takes the mask off, and we see the dog mask's eyes go. And he puts the mask back on after diving behind a bar where a bunch of people are shooting. And for a second, it's like, oh no, they got him. But then it's like, did you miss me? And jumps in, drinks something. All the holes, just the fluid licks out of the hole. I guess not. And he starts, like, he turns his arms into a bunch of fucking guns and is like, you might want to leave. And all the freaking villains run away.
Yeah, they're like, oh, nope, bye.
And then all of them fire off, and they're just bang signs. Just tick, 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 tick.
God, like recounting this whole movie so far has been great too, because I wish you guys could see this, but Scott's been like Jim Carrey and the faces the entire time. It's been great.
Party, because I gotta. Funny anecdote, there was a Mask TV show based on the movie that had a crossover with an Ace Ventura movie.
What?
Ace Ventura is also based on a Jim Carrey property, so it was a cartoon crossover of two Jim Carrey characters.
Huh.
And they were in completely different styles that did not mix.
Ooh. Kind of like the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour
Worse.
bad. Oh, worse than that.
One was extremely stylized, and one was like kind of comic book realism. So, so then it becomes like Darian is trying to get to the mask, and Tina, the mask literally just draws a flush symbol as the dude steps into a fountain, flushes him down the drain, and then eats the dynamite. Eats the dynamite, it explodes within him. That's a spicy meatball! And then the day is saved.
Stanley gets the girl.
The mayor vouches for him. Is like, no, he's not the mask. He saved us from the mask. Darian Gray was the mask.
And the detective, who was actually very competent throughout most of the movie,
is gonna get demoted.
I'm like, the good guy he was kind of the good guy.
Cynical humor.
He was the good guy.
Yep, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. So, Kat, as someone who had not seen this before,
Yes.
give us your thoughts.
I really liked this movie. It kept my attention the entire time, and I was thinking back to, like, I never seen The Mask, but I did see like posters of it or just in passing, like little advertisements. And I never had any interest in seeing The Mask because I thought it looked kind of creepy and a little bit scary. So
No, that's the comic.
yeah, but so that kind of drew.
The original comic was by Dark Horse, so that's the guys who made Spawn.
Yeah, so and I don't, because I feel like if I actually sat down and watched the movie as a kid, I probably would have loved it just as much as you. It was very enjoyable for a kid, and it was very enjoyable for me as an adult too. So it was just wacky fun from start to finish, and the dog's the best character.
Yeah.
Dog's best boy.
It
No take, only throw.
It honestly almost kind of has a similar feel to like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
Yeah, where it's just that kind of thing where, you know, I don't know, I would love a ride based off of The Mask, just like Roger Rabbit ride.
Yeah.
Like that'd be fun.
Yeah. Now you're putting the two and two together. I can definitely see that because
it's that mashup of like sort of like cynical noir sort of storytelling and cartoons and just
like I'm trying to give my other thoughts. Like At first with Tina, I'm just like, oh boy, here we go. But I actually ended up really liking her.
In fact, didn't Tina get introduced as being the lady wearing red?
Yeah.
So, literally the character that, you know, if it was a detective movie, it's like, knew she was trouble as soon as she walked into my door. Like,
Stanley, I wish I could say he grew on me, but no. I'm like,
but the mask did.
Oh, the mask won me over almost immediately.
The mask grows on everyone who wears it.
I love the detective Doyle.
Doyle? It's like, oh, that doesn't sound good. Well, what does sound good to you? Breakfast.
I feel, and I like the mob scenes, and I'm glad we didn't get any more of it or any less of it. I think we got the right amount of screen time for them and their whole subplots. So
we got just enough to be like, okay, this is who the mask has to deal with.
This is the bad guy. These are the bad guys. These are his motivations.
Yeah, but it's like it's not really a thing. Like as soon as Stanley gets the mask back, they are no issue because how do you fight the mask?
Yeah, that's,
you don't.
Yeah, they're very first arc villains in a...
Yeah, you don't fight them.
The only way they could be threatening was if Stanley didn't have access to the mask for most of the time.
Yeah, and they did do that at first, but you know it's a comedy, so it's played for laugh. He's about to go in guns a-blazing and gets immediately captured.
But yeah, like literally the second the mask they got.
Which
the
honestly,
mask.
it's kind of interesting. The girl and the dog are the ones who actually have to save the day. Because they have to get the mask away from the goons to get to Stanley. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, the Stanley with the mask is the one who gets rid of the final guy, but that's just through cartoon logic. Tina and Milo are the ones who actually did the legwork.
That's true.
Huh. Weirdly progressive. Probably accident. But yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it overall. I would definitely recommend.
Yeah. And I still love it as much as I did as a kid. I wish I lived in a reality where I could find a wooden mask housing the chaotic powers of Loki and just... Oh, it's time to goof.
A Scott wearing the mask, like that whole idea just terrifies me because you're already kind of a zany lunatic without one.
Somebody stop me!
But
God.
I wanted to ask more about since we're never gonna watch this. I'm pretty sure what was supposed to go on in Son of the Mask, because I know you said it's awful.
Okay, none of the original characters are in it.
Wait, what?
Except for Clear Eyes guy, who has a cameo right at the beginning as a museum curator, who gets his face stolen.
What?
Yeah, because Loki shows up and is like, hey, the mask is causing chaos, and Loki literally goes, oh, Odin, you mean the mask that you stole my powers and put in? Yes, that one. Get it back. And it's like, okay. Like, literally the whole movie ends up being like, sons and dads should respect each other and shouldn't just be a power dynamic. And man, Odin, you're not really a very good dad.
Aww.
Because the whole thing is like, oh, this character named Tim Avery, like Tex Avery, is a cartoonist, and his wife wants a baby, but he has a whole room for his dog, which is basically just Milo again, though I think with a different name. I think Otis or something. But it's literally the same type of dog. They I think even have the same effect when the dog has the mask. Mm-hmm. And the dog's the one who has the mask for the majority of the movie.
Oh.
You know, like, and the whole crux of the film is that Tim Avery puts on the mask, goes and parties, and then while still being in the mask, fucks his wife pregnant.
What?
So, the boy has Loki's powers. The little baby.
Oh.
And then hijinks ensue? Attempts at hijinks?
This sounds bad.
It's very bad. It looks like a Nickelodeon movie that didn't have even a slight budget of a Nickelodeon movie.
Oh, that's bad.
Clock Stoppers is better than this movie. The Son of the Mask, not The Mask. The Mask is great.
Okay, good to know. I'm missing nothing.
Also, I think that Clock Stoppers is a Nickelodeon original movie. Pretty good.
Honestly, I would probably recognize it if you showed me like an image from it. But
It's the one where a kid finds a watch that stops time.
Okay, I mean that's just a general concept. I don't know. I don't remember that movie.
It was pretty fun because at the end it kind of turns slightly superhero origin movie, and that's kind of fun. But like a little bit of spy stuff in it. But most of it, it's just, oh, he has a watch that stops time, and the effect for stopping time was pretty good. Like at one point, there's just like a sprinkler that's just completely stopped, and a girl pushes the water droplet out of the way. And it's like, oh, that's pretty fun. At one point, they're like, because anyone who's making physical contact with him also gets affected by the stuff in the watch. So her friend is like really bombing at a DJ show because he's trying to be a DJ. So they help him by like just, okay, and then we'll turn him like that, and it just shows him, woo! And it's like, if you actually, think about this doesn't make any sense because like there should just be like two blurry things going around him constantly. But whatever. But yeah, so I really like The Mask, and I hope that Jim Carrey gets to do a sequel of it if those rumors of him wanting to do one is true. I feel like that'd be really good, especially if we get, the right director and creative team to bring that same unique air to it. And I just wish for more movies like that, like where it can be darkly comedic and also zany comedic in the same movie, and it can have cynical elements, but it's not gray or brown. I'm fine with that. I like that. Shazam was kind of like that. It's a DC movie that actually had color. Especially when Shazam was actually in it. When it's just Billy Batson, unfortunately, it kind of started going more towards the DCEU color scheme. But at least then, Billy Batson was a good actor, and his foster family were pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, I would say I wanted to see Shazam. I just never got around to it, but
we'll probably watch it. It's a Christmas time set movie, so
okay.
Yeah, we could watch that around Christmas. I think it's set around Christmas literally so that they can just make a reference to Tom Hanks's Big. The scene where they're dancing on the piano.
Okay.
Because, Shazam is a little kid that turns into an adult superhero, which is originally what's inspired Tom Hanks's Big. But because that's the thing that most people know now, because that was a mainstream movie, they of course have to then art replicating art and circle it back around, and now there's a reference to Big in the Shazam movie, even though Shazam the comic was what inspired Big, and oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. So,
but yeah,
a bit of a shorter episode this time, but
nothing wrong with that.
It's not.
It's a quick movie. It's not overly deep, but
yeah, it's not hugely narrative driven. It's definitely character driven, and just what can we do with this character?
What can we do with computer graphics?
What can we do with this new emerging technology, SpongeBob? Goosh, goosh, goosh.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable. I shared all my thoughts on it. You got anything else to say, Scott? Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget, if you have anything you'd like to say to us, whether it be suggestions or just feel like dropping a hello, I enjoy listening to you doofuses. Send us an email at outoftheicepodcast@gmail.com.
And if you don't want us to read it on air, let us know. If you want us to read it on air but not say your name, let us know. Just, make sure that we know what we're allowed to say and what not.
Yeah, we want, because if we don't see anything, we'll just assume no is the safer answer.
Yeah,
so.
We don't want to overshare shit. And also, if you're enjoying the podcast, rating us on Apple Podcasts will really help. It fuels the algorithm because, everything, you might have heard it if you watch YouTube or listen to other podcasts. Everything online is algorithm based now.
I forgot what Spotify. I think Spotify is just likes and dislikes.
I think it's just likes and dislikes. So if you're on Spotify listening, drop us a like. If you're on Apple Podcasts, which I believe is where most of our viewership is right now.
Yeah, that's true for most podcasts.
Yeah.
So.
Which, wherever you're listening to it, we appreciate you. But if you're on Apple Podcast, please rate us the appropriate amount of stars that you think we deserve, and drop us a comment. It does really help other people be exposed to our stuff, and that helps grow it. And if we grow a lot more and get more subscribers and more views and all that stuff, we'll eventually be able to have sponsors, which will eventually make it so that we start getting income from this, and that means that we can do more stuff for you.
All this in the very end will hopefully just, we're going to throw it back right back into the pod.
Exactly. That means that, if we start getting some monetization from this by having sponsors, want to be a part of this, that means we can get better setups. We can get better equipment so that this sounds better for you. We can maybe, go to video stuff, spin-off podcasts, live stream reactions, special tiers, merchandise if you want to have a hat with our logo on it or something. Like, that will all come through this sort of process. So if you can, please share the podcast with people. I know it sounds like we're shilling, but it's only because we are. We're being honest here. Because we love doing this, and we'd love to do more of it. And unfortunately, to do that, you just got to kind of play the algorithm game. So
yep.
Help us, and we will
help you by giving you better content.
More stuff to enjoy. But I think that's it for us. So
I'm Kat.
I'm Scott.
And we're out of the ice.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.